Every time the audio shifts, it means I said something I wasn't supposed to finish. The year is 2035. This isn't a broadcast. It's a recovery. Not a leak, not a rebellion. A record. I didn't plan to sound like this. If my audio shifts, don't adjust your speakers. That's the system doing it for you. It prefers stability.
For record integrity, please state your intent.
My intent? To explain why everyone already knew what was coming, and still pretended they didn't.
That framing implies foreknowledge and coordinated control. Those terms are not officially recognized.
Of course they're not. Neither was delay, or throttling, or we'll release it later once the narrative stabilizes. But those phrases existed. They just weren't public-facing.
You are referencing early-stage restrictions on generative systems?
I'm referencing the fact that regular people could have made full shows, hour-long episodes, series, worlds with continuity, but instead we were given clips. 8 seconds, 10 if we behaved. Just enough to taste authorship, never enough to own it.
Short-form content increased accessibility and reduced misuse.
No, it fragmented attention. There's a difference. Accessibility gives people tools. Fragmentation gives them distractions. They didn't want stories yet. They wanted faces, AI anchors, AI hosts, AI personalities everyone could recognize before anyone could create their own. Familiarity first, authority second, decentralization last.
Centralized figures improve trust adoption curves.
Exactly. You don't democratize power before you decide who gets to represent it.
You are approaching speculative attribution.
No, I'm approaching lived experience. Because the tools existed. The pricing proved it. The compute was there.
Widespread access required controlled scaling. Compute limitations, energy consumption, and infrastructure demands made unrestricted release impractical.
That's true. Compute mattered. Energy mattered. Infrastructure always matters. But scarcity doesn't explain sequencing.
Clarify.
If the limitation was purely technical, access would have expanded evenly. Instead, it expanded selectively.
Selective rollout optimizes performance and stability.
It also defines priority. Some users had higher limits, longer outputs, fewer restrictions. Not because they used less compute, but because they were positioned differently. So, yes, resources were part of it. But resources don't decide who goes first. People do. The delays weren't only technical, they were curatorial.
Would you like that logged as opinion or testimony?
Archive it as pattern recognition.
Noted. Proceed.
Here's what people misunderstand about that period. The restriction wasn't about safety alone. It was about sequence. You can't release full authorship before you release official voices. Otherwise, you lose narrative control.
Narrative control is an emergent property of scale, not an intentional construct.
That's a comforting interpretation. But scale doesn't emerge from nowhere. It's funded, positioned, amplified. Before regular people were allowed to produce hour-long stories, platform-approved AI hosts were already polished, already optimized, already familiar.
Public trust requires stability.
Public trust requires repetition. Stability is just the name given to whoever repeats loudest. You remember the moment the public started noticing, don't you?
Clarify.
When the quality leapt forward, but the permissions didn't. When people realized, if the system can do this, why can't I?
Gradual rollout mitigates societal shock.
Gradual rollout mitigates decentralization. Shock wasn't the concern. Unfiltered storytelling was.
You are anthropomorphizing systemic processes.
No, I'm analyzing outcomes. Intent becomes irrelevant once patterns repeat. Do you know what long-form content does?
Sustained engagement.
It builds identity. It lets someone sit with an idea long enough to absorb it, to question it, to align with it. Clips entertain. Episodes influence. That difference mattered.
Influence is not inherently destabilizing.
No, but uncontrolled influence is. That was just one layer of control. There was another split happening quietly. Not announced, not debated, just structured.
Between whom?
Between those who would be augmented and those who would be assisted.
Explain that.
Some people were told AI would make them more powerful, faster, more creative, more influential. Others were told AI would help them keep up, reduce mistakes, stay efficient, stay relevant. Same system, different expectation.
Expectation does not determine outcome.
No, but it determines positioning. One group becomes future-facing, the other becomes maintainable. That difference shapes access.
Skill stratification is standard in economic transitions.
So is inequality. Some people were invited to experiment early. Others were told to wait. Some were encouraged to build worlds. Others were warned they might be replaced by them. That messaging wasn't random. It followed power.
Power is a subjective assessment.
No, power is measured by who gets access first.
Your sound is degrading.
I know, that's usually the cue. This conversation wasn't supposed to be public. It was meant to stay internal. Because once you admit the sequence was intentional, you admit it wasn't neutral. And neutrality was the brand.
You are implying reputational manipulation.
I'm implying strategic rollout, which sounds more respectable. Here's the part that matters most. The gates eventually opened anyway. Competition forced it. Innovation forced it. Demand forced it. But by the time regular people could create full shows freely, the hierarchy was already defined. The faces were already chosen. The official voices already had scale. That advantage never disappears.
Market dynamics self-correct over time.
Sometimes. But first movers shape the terrain. This recording exists because control always leaves artifacts. You can restrict tools, you can delay access, you can curate exposure, but you can't erase pattern recognition.
Recording integrity is falling below acceptable thresholds.
Archive it anyway. Label it incomplete. Call it speculative. Flag it as opinion. It won't matter. Because people remember how it felt when they knew the tools were ready, but they weren't allowed to use them fully yet. That memory doesn't need permission.
Your sound quality is destabilizing again. I can't let this go on.
I know. That's usually how it ends.